Yeah, hi everybody. I'm just set out here. I haven't set out the back section of the house for a while. It's quite a warm day. Got the blinds down, the sort of late burst of summer weather to finish off the year for us here in Australia. Today you're going to hear a little bit of my memories of a trip I took in 1986 back to Africa again. Vision to cross Africa overland from Egypt down to South Africa, Cairo to Capetown. It's quite a lengthy story. A lot happened on the way, obviously. There's lots of photos to show and travel stories to share with you. So it's going to do part one today, which is going to be when leaving Australia, across to, went via America to England, Britain, and then across to Europe, and then into Egypt, and I'll tell you a little bit about my time in Egypt. But before we do that, I've got some things I discovered and I wanted to show you guys that you might find interesting. So, I don't know when it wasn't that long ago, I think. I mentioned these slides that were taken on the ship, and I said I hadn't seen them for decades. And I didn't know what had happened to them. So a couple of weeks ago, I was watching TV and I looked, there's a big door above the TV. Like, this house was built by a man. He built it himself, probably with a couple of friends to help him. And there's like a kitchen door above the TV. Doesn't even close properly now. It would have been for storage. You could fit bodies up there easily. There's that much storage. When I opened this door, it was covered in cobwebs. But on one of the shelves was a box of slides. So this trip we're taking today, I'm going to tell you about today, I took a lot of slides, and I used to go around to people's houses. When I got back from the holiday, I used to bore the pants off people. They'd be falling asleep halfway through. I took a lot of slides. And I thought, if those slides from the ship are anywhere, they're likely to be in the box with those other slides from that holiday. And sure enough, they were. I'm glad I didn't just throw these slides out as I was tempted to do. So I've got 7 to show you. I'm going to show you them now. Have a look. Put them in this little container. So this is what they look like. SS Southern Cross, Shore Saville line. The numbers don't really mean anything. They're not in any particular order. On the back it says Transocean Limited, 85 High Street, Esher, Surrey, England. It's probably a company that got aboard these ocean liners and took advantage of people wanting to remember their holiday or their trip, I suppose. So, yeah, I took them to a place called Camera House in Bendigo to have them developed. They're pretty expensive. I sent digital copies to my brother and my sister, and I got hard copies. So let's have a look at this one first. So this is in the dining room on the Southern Cross, the SS Southern Cross, Shore Saville. You can see the wooden panelling at the back, and it was a China night. You can see Dad is to the to the right of my view. He's eating his soup, and that's this waiter that looked after. He's a really friendly guy, real happy, flamboyantly gay. Mum took to him. He was very kind to us. I said, so I'll put a link down the bottom of this video to my memories of that trip we took on the ship from Port Melbourne to Durban. And yeah, I wasn't allowed to eat with the adults. So I didn't eat in that dining room. I had to go and sit with the kids, and I was terrified of kids. So anyway, this waiter, real happy guy, real friendly, and obviously a professional. So he took my hand and he took me down to the kids' dining room, and he sort of introduced me to some people, and he put me at ease. So I was able to resume eating, which I hadn't done for a while. Anyway, that That kimono is one that Mum got in Japan when she took me in 1965. So, yep. This is the same night because it says on the menu China night, and there's that same waiter. That's my brother. He's got this sheep's wool vest that he got at the Vic Market. Vic Market's still running in Melbourne. I think he's supposed to be a Mongol. I don't know what the hat is or the wig. I don't know where he got that from. So there's a man sitting next to him who's eating his soup. He's not wearing any attempt at looking Asian or Chinese. I think he was just someone who would have been sitting on his own, and Mum, being the person she was, probably would have said, would you like to come and join us? And he's actually sitting in my seat. I should have been there, except for the stupid laws about how old you had to be to eat with family. So yeah, China night. This is the shot that I mentioned. I said that there was a photo of me coming up the gangplank. I got an idea that everybody that came up had the photo taken, but I've never seen any of the other of the family that had their photo taken. I think Mum is behind me, but anyway, I've got my little monkey there in my bag. I've got this little alien guy. I swapped some kids at school with a Batman comic or something, but that little alien guy, I think his head used to light up. I'm not sure, I've got a bit of paper in my hand, I don't know what that's about, but that's a suit that I wore for my sister's wedding. So my sister got married about not that long before we left, like a couple of months before we left. I'm not wearing a tie. It looks like a double-breasted suit. I'm not wearing a tie. That was quite an issue at my sister's wedding. I'm still coming to terms with having to wear a tie on that occasion, but anyway, I look quite windswept, and I look in shock actually. But I'm sure inside I was very excited. And that's Southern Cross. Sorry, that's Station Pier. I went back to that pier on the 50th anniversary of the ship leaving. The wind has gone nuts out here. But anyway, I'm at Station Pier. 50 years to the day since we took that ship, the Southern Cross, all the way across to Durban, South Africa. There's the pier behind me. And it's a cold, windy day in Port Melbourne for sure. Alright, I'm having a ball. I'm loving it. So yeah, that's Station Pier, Port Melbourne. So this is Dad accepting an award by the captain of the ship for the chess competition. So Dad must have beaten everybody on the ship at chess and won some sort of award. Dad's still got colour in his hair. I never knew him, I don't remember from his visits or going to see him ever having colour in his hair, so I guess the events that were to come 6 months later would send his hair grey. So here they are, Mum and Dad. Sort of politically incorrect these days, I guess. Dad's done up as Fu Manchu or something. They've even given him sort of slanty eyes. That dressing gown, that's a dressing gown that Mum gave him from Japan. I don't know where he got the hat from. There's Mum. They look like they're eating, you know, chicken and corn soup or something for the China night. These may be the last photos of the two of them together that were ever taken. So within 6 months of this photo, Mum was gone. So this is me at the fancy dress party. Dad bought this red grenadier outfit for me in England. Dad went back to England in '67 and he went to like Carnaby Street and all that. He bought fantastic clothes back. He bought this beautiful shirt like the Who were wearing, you know, like a Union Jack shirt. He bought it back from my brother, but he bought me this little army uniform, and I think for the fancy dress, I'm pretty sure, I reckon those are Mum's boots. So yeah, and I kind of like this one. That's my brother. Now it's a different night. It's not, although that looks like the same soup. Well, I don't think it is, but anyway, that's the same guy that was sitting at the table. But yeah, how's my brother's fashion? Like this purple paisley late 60s shirt with a big wide tie. He looks like something from the Yardbirds or the Easy Beats, Carnaby Street. Looks fantastic. Alright, so those are the slides, and now we'll get on to I want to show you guys the what I had done with those bullets and the Zulu spear, and then we'll get on to the story of the travel. Really impressed with it. I love it. I was going to design this myself, but I'm glad they did. I let them do it. But these are the that's the spearhead I got when I bought the shield. That was found at Isildwana, and those are the bullets that those kids sold me at the Battle of Kambula. And you can see that on the video for Kambula. I'll put the link underneath this video to Kambula as well. You know, I love what they did with it, and they put me up in the corner. Might be a bit of glare, sorry about that. I chose the frame. It just looks fantastic in here. I've got it next to the Swazi shield. There's a story on how I got that shield as well. Yeah, it's fantastic. I've got this here that we bought one time coming back from Warrnambool. Just stopped at an op shop. Heathcote is the next town up from us. This is 1916, this calendar. And I've never figured out what that cavalry charge is. They look British, but yeah. Anyway, so thought you'd find that interesting. I got this enlarged and framed, A4. That's my favourite photo of my holiday in South Africa, because I'm wearing the Boer War helmet. Yeah, hi everybody. Quite a hot end to our, it's not even summer anymore. I think we're into autumn, and it's a 3-day heat wave we've had here in central Victoria. It's off the charts, it's off the records. But we're surviving as best as we can. So this is like the third attempt to make this video. I've done the slides that you've just seen. I've done them twice, and I've done the the diorama with my bullets and my spear. I've done that twice, and now the story of me being in America and Europe on the way to Africa. I've done that 3 times, and then the last time I thought, well, the video is going to be titled Egypt to Capetown, Cairo to Cape. And we're going to have 45 minutes of talking when we have even got to Egypt. So I wasn't going to show you that. It was my reminiscences from 1986. But then this morning, some of the commentators, they seem to like some of the stories, and I thought, well, I shot the footage, and it is part of that trip. It's part of how I got to Egypt in '86 to start that monumental hike down through the length of Africa. So, some of you might find it of interest. I'll try and edit the video down to, I don't know, half an hour, 40-minute installments, and there's probably going to be maybe 3, maybe even 4 installments, because I did a lot on that trip. But at any rate, let's not waste the footage we've got. Some of you might enjoy the stories, and others might want to wait till I actually get to Africa. But it'll put in context my frame of mind once I got down to the border of the Sudan, and things took a bit of an unexpected turn. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you're new, thanks for checking things out. We're getting some new subscribers, that's really good. Go back through the library of videos I've posted. There's lots of stuff on Boer War, a few cooking, but also memories of my time in Africa, going right back to 1971. So, all right, hey ho. Let's go. Be into the cooking, and so this might be for you. Now, before I went away last year, once again, I'll put up a link to my African chat videos. So I went to South Africa last year in October, as you know if you've been following this channel. But before that, I started telling you about other trips to Africa I made. So, yeah, you know, just to compress it all, 1971, Dad gets a job. We go to South Africa to live. I was there for 5.5 years. It changed me. I realised that last year when I went back to Capetown, those places, it changed me. I'll always have a bit of Africa in me. I came back in about 76. You know, got my first job, got a car, got a girlfriend, all that sort of stuff. And then but there was a restlessness about me. So then in 83, I think it was about 83, I decided to go back to Africa. And you'll see the episode. As I said, I'll try and put a link up there to the 83 return to Africa. I went with a friend called Tom. We landed in South Africa. We flew up to see Dad in Zimbabwe, and then went back to South Africa. I lost my passport, my photos, all the stuff was stolen from the boot of the car. It was a horrific time. Then I got over to Southwest Africa, Namibia. I worked on the uranium mine. Worked is a fairly flexible word when it comes to me. I was there for a little while until they cottoned onto my work ethic. Wasn't what they were used to, so I had to get out of there. Anyway, I bought a motorbike and I rode up through the Capetown strip. I ended back up with Dad for a while, sold the motorbike in Botswana and got a flight back to Melbourne in about late 83, I think. So today's episode is the return to Africa after that. So when I got back to Melbourne, as I said, it was probably about 1984. I was a computer operator, which was, in my inflated head, ego, a bit of a big deal at the time. IT was fairly new, but computer operators were, kind of the bottom of the heap, but they still made relatively good money. Well, I did anyway. I worked contract work. So I got a job with the Victorian Railways, and I was a contractor there at the old Spencer Street building. I might put up a photo of the old Spencer Street headquarters of Vic Rail back then. And then we moved to the brand new building on Collins Street, 589 Collins Street, which was built for the railways. And we were right up on, high up on one of the floors. And I was goofing around, didn't take it too seriously. As I was saying, for mid-80s I was earning really good money, but squandering it, I was a young person whose primary focus in life was to have a party. And but anyway, that's the way I was. But I was restless for Africa. So when I bought that motorbike, that was a lot of fun, riding the motorbike through the Capetown strip. Apart from the bloody flat tyres I kept getting, that was a lot of fun. And I did pop into Zambia, Angola, just a little bit, not much. Had a quick look around those places, and Botswana. And I had started thinking, you know what, I should have gone on. When I had the motorbike, I should have headed north. I should have gone up to Kenya. Kenya was a place that always fascinated me. I loved that movie Out of Africa with Meryl Streep. I had a farm in Africa. So Kenya fascinated me. And I loved what I'd seen of Africa so much. I kept thinking, well, why didn't I go on when I had the motorbike? Well, the simple answer was I didn't have that much money saved from the uranium mine experience, Rossing, and I was homesick. I was screwed up in the head over a girl. Wanted her then I didn't want her, and yeah, I had a lot of growing up to do. So anyway, yeah, so I decided, and actually, yeah, as I said, I was contracting at the railways, and they offered me a permanent position, and I took it. I was only there for about 6 months as a permanent employee. I mean, if I'd have stayed on, I could have got a redundancy package, all that sort of stuff, but my mind was made up on going back to Africa. And people kind of said, why are you throwing it all in again? And I couldn't really explain it, but I'd saved up a fair bit of money. I was on about $25 an hour, $30 an hour sometimes, mid-80s. That's a lot of money. In fact, there was a guy at work, he was from Uruguay, Raul, I think his name was. He was a lot of fun. But he used to say, buy a house, and then you can go on your holidays, just rent the house out. Yeah, but I was never that keen on that idea. Anyway, so I decided to quit the railways again and go back to Africa. But this time, hitchhike from Egypt down to Cape Town, from Cairo to Cape Town. That was my idea. And in the time leading up to departure, had a friend like my sister's stepbrother. I'm my sister's stepbrother. I'm now her stepsister. But she also has another stepbrother, or half brothers. I don't know how it works. But anyway, yeah, he's a nice guy, Michael. So he said he was going to live in Los Angeles. So he said, why don't you stop over and see us in Los Angeles? Because I was going to go via Europe. So when I looked on the map and I went to the travel agent, yeah, that was a thing, you could do that. So I decided to stop over and see Michael in Los Angeles, have about 3 weeks there, then on to London. Then I'd have to go over to Holland, because they got coffee shops that sell pot, and that appealed to me. And then make my way over to Greece, because I'd fallen in love with a Greek woman, and it was all about, there was losing her, and the agony and the pain, all the pain. I should say that before we left Australia, or I left Australia, we had this big party on top of the bank. I lived on top of a bank in Gardenvale with some other mates. A lot of smoking pot, playing guitars, someone gave us this old Hammond organ thing, and it had real primitive drum beats on, and we used to get real stoned, and 3 of us would be on this Hammond organ making music. A lot of fun, But anyway, I had a party there, threw the lease in, and it was a jungle themed party. I'll put some photos of that party there as well. But anyway, the Greek girl was there, the Greek woman was there, and sort of fell for her again. We'd broken up, but her being at the party reminded me, and maybe I thought there was a chance we could get back together or something. I'd already booked the ticket, and then I'm thinking, do I really want to go now? Because I'd rather be with her. Yeah, I thought we might be able to get back together, but that wasn't going to happen, so I flew out the next day after the party. So yeah, so I landed in Los Angeles. I wore this puffy shirt I borrowed from the fancy dress shop one time, this puffy shirt, and it had puffy sleeves. I'm always reminded of the Seinfeld episode of the puffy shirt. That was my look. I had the puffy shirt, open neck, a lot of gold and chains on, skin tight jeans, heavy eyeliner, and I flew to Los Angeles. Never been to America before. It was fantastic. And Michael was living with this girl called Robbie. He had an American girlfriend, a real Californian lady. And me and her hit it off straight away. We were just like peas in a pod. We had the same sense of humour. Party animals. So yeah, we were living in this flat. There was another Australian sleeping on the floor. I was sleeping on the floor in the lounge. Our stuff from our backpack started to take over all the lounge room floor. Robbie's sister was there with her boyfriend. He was an American guy, and you know, the Australians were taking over the flat. So I went up to 7-Eleven to get beer. You know, when you're an alcoholic, you look back and you go, these are the times that stick in your mind as being, you know, monumentous. You know, like if you're a chemist or a scientist and you discover plutonium, that's a significant moment in their lives. For me, it was discovering that 7-Elevens in America sold beer. So I've gone up to buy the beer, and of course 7-Eleven, you know, it's open all around the clock. So the fact that you could buy beer from a store at any hour just blew my mind. So anyway, behind the counter was this girl from Nicaragua called Gerald. So I don't know whether I think maybe I cashed a traveller's check there or something. So she saw my passport and she said, "Oh, you're from Australia?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you know anything of Australia?" She said, "Yes, you have kangaroo." I love that. So, you know, I'm a good-looking young person. And so I asked her out, and yeah, started hanging out with her in Los Angeles, but not just her. We were going to bars. I remember going to the rooftop of this building overlooking Malibu. They had a Mexican restaurant. I met another woman at this Irish pub or something, and she took me to lunch on top of this building with Mexican food, with the waitresses wearing Mexican dresses, and you know, pictures of margaritas and the ocean with Malibu. It's fantastic. So of course I wanted to stay longer. I fell quickly in love with Gerald, the girl, the Nicaraguan. But time came to move on. I was there about 3 weeks. Time came to fly on. You know, I was asking Gerald to meet me, or I'd come back or whatever, but that was all just craziness. You know, I could fall in love at the drop of a hat. So I flew on to London. You know, my memory's going to be a bit blurry because I've been overseas over those places a few times, and this is mainly about my time in Africa. So, you know, I'll remember some, but there'll be lots other that I forget. So what I do know is when I was back in England, I saw my Uncle Roy again. Uncle Roy had picked me up my first time to England. I love my Uncle Roy. Auntie Ivy, not so much. Went up, I'm not sure if I went up to Scotland to see George's family again. I might have. My boss had been a Scotsman. I'd stayed with his family in Scotland once. Not sure if I went up to see them again. Yeah. And looked around London, I guess, you know, Tower of London, all those things. Some great museums and that sort of thing. I don't really remember. But anyway, I got to be, yeah. So I got, okay, yeah, now I'm with you. I think. I got the ferry to Ireland, right? Yeah, I got the ferry to Ireland. I think this is the trip, but I could be getting myself confused. I just booked a seat to sit on the ferry because I didn't want to pay for a bunk. That was extra. So remembering, I was planning on being away for a year or more to do this hitchhike from Egypt down. So, you know, I'm incredibly frugal most of the time. But then I'd go out on a bender and buy litres of Guinness and get, you know, and spend a fortune on alcohol and drugs. But anyway, I I think it was this occasion, I got the ferry over to Ireland and I paid for the cheap tickets sitting up all night, and first and only time I've ever been seasick. It was horrific. I got really seasick and oh my God. And I had to crawl to reception on the ferry to beg for a bunk. And of course I paid much more for it than if I had booked it to start with. I just had to lay down and sweat it out till I got to Ireland. Yeah, I'm not sure what I did in Ireland. I went down south. I never went up to Belfast. I went down to Cork, I think. Looked around a bit here and there. Then I got a ferry from I can't remember what it's called, the tip of Ireland, across to Le Havre in France. And got to Paris, looked around Paris. The Palace of Versailles interested me. I'd done French history at high school, 17th century French history, the French Revolution, all that interested me. So I remember seeing the Palace of Versailles. I remember Paris being quite hard with the language and all that, the food. They're not great memories of Paris then. Just to remind you, I'm talking about 1986, I'd say, and I was about 25 or 26 years old. You know, lugging this big bloody backpack of junk around Europe with me. So I get on it was coming up for Christmas. I probably left in October, that was the usual time I left. Come up for Christmas, I get the bus from Paris up to Amsterdam. As I said, there's coffee shops I've got to see. And on the bus was this Dutch woman, sort of middle-aged, I suppose. She was sat next to me, and we were coming up for Christmas. So she got talking to me, and she said, "What are you doing for Christmas?" I said, "No, not really. I'm just on my own. I'm going to I'm going to get a bus across to Greece, but I wanted to look around Amsterdam for a bit." So she says, "Well, you come and stay with me for Christmas. You know, I live just outside Amsterdam, a place called Haarlem, and her name was Millie Genicht, I think." So turns out she was a lesbian, and she saw something in me that I was, as much as I might in my head try and portray this hetero guy, that you know, my style, I like to dress like a rock star. You know, skin tight. I remember I had these red vinyl pants I'd bought in London or something, and I bought this leather jacket in London with all the tassels, like a rock star. Looking back, it's a bit camp. But so anyway, she said, "Yeah, come and stay with me." So I stayed in, I think I stayed in Amsterdam a couple of days on my own, or maybe, yeah, no, I think I stayed a couple of days on my own, but then I got the train over to Haarlem, where she stayed, just before Christmas, or New Year, something like that. And she had a whole bunch of girlfriends. So she invited them to come over and meet me. And one of them was this really beautiful woman called Ritje. Beautiful copper red hair she was. She was a stunner. And so Ritje said, "Well, when you come back to Amsterdam, stay with me." Cool. So yeah, I stayed with Millie, and she took me over. She was doing a job where she was driving around Holland a bit, delivering stuff. I don't remember what she did. She was a rep, maybe sales rep or something. I just tagged along with her. And then we went to a party New Year's Eve, I remember. Yeah, and she said to me, yeah, she picked up in me that I was at least bisexual. She picked that up on me, and she said, "You're probably best not to tell people that. When you meet someone, don't tell them that." I don't know, she gave me a bit of advice. I mean, I was very closeted, absolutely horrified with who and what I was deep inside. It was a secret that I didn't want anyone to ever find out about. But anyway, so yeah, I went back to Amsterdam, and yeah, it was real unfortunate with me and Ritje. We used to write for years, and I reckon we could have got it together. There was a real attraction between us. And on that occasion, like I was going to stay there a few nights with her, I reckon we would have ended up having sex for sure. So she took me out for dinner. She took me to this Indonesian restaurant. I remember there was like an ice rink in the middle of Amsterdam with people ice skating around, and we sat in this beautiful restaurant. She gave me her own recipe for satay. You know, the Dutch were in Indonesia for a long time. I had that recipe in my purse for years and years and years till it fell apart. But yeah, as fate would have it, when we got back to her flat, she had this big dog. It was like a Great Dane or something. Her family called, and her father was really sick. He was going to die or something. So she left me she told me what to do with the key. She said, you can stay in the flat as long as you want. I've got to go back and stay with my father or something like that. So I didn't see her again on that occasion. But yeah, the coffee bar's fantastic. I went to this place called the Tronskei, African themed, you know, and they had all this pot from Africa, Durban poison, you know, Malawi gold, and you know, they were all sitting around smoking joints. So I'm asking it, because I'm a bong smoker, so I'm asking for a bong. So they stick a bong in front of me with a bowl, and I'd make a mix of this stuff. I mean, I sent some back to Australia, to friends in Australia. I remember sending a bag of weed or hash or something back to these girls that I knew, and I labelled it the Benevolent Women's Fund, and sent them this hash that I think it got through customs. But anyway, yeah, so smoking lots of weed, and yeah, Rit, you know, I didn't see Rit again on that occasion. So I booked this bus to go from Amsterdam to Athens. Oh my God. That was horrific. That was horrendous. If I had any brain, and I wasn't always trying to save money, I should have just flown. But anyway, because, you know, in Europe, you were always walking past windows which had these cheap prices for, you know, real exotic sounding places, you know, cheap fares to get to places. So yeah, I got on the bus, and it was packed with Greeks, all yibbering and yabbering in Greek and yelling up and down the bus, and I was sat next to this fat fucking Greek guy. You know, fortunately, I suppose, I was next to the window. That was one small pleasure, I suppose, or advantage. So I could rest my head on the window and sort of try and sleep. But sometimes we were going through, like we went through Austria, and it was so cold outside of the bus that my hair would freeze to the window of the bus, and you know, hour after hour, and cramped in next to this fat Greek guy who spoke very little English and didn't want to talk to me anyway. And but as each time we stopped for a toilet break or you know, to buy some food or something, there was another English guy at the back of the bus, and I'd sort of make eye contact and say hello, and then eventually started chatting. And the other thing was, when you stopped at these places, you needed local currency to go to the toilet. You had to put your money in a little tray. There was like a toilet attendant, or you wanted to buy some sandwiches, you needed local currency. It was just mad, and it was horrible. I don't know how long the bus trip took, but it was one of the longest, most uncomfortable bus trips I've ever taken in my life. Until I got to, I think it's called Thessalonica in the north of Greece, and then most of those people got off the bus, and there was some breathing space. So the English guy who was down the back, he came up and sat next to me, and finally I had someone to talk to in English. And you sort of felt like, oh, we must be nearly there now. Thessalonica is the north of Greece. Bus was going to dump us into Athens. And thought, okay, it can't be far, but it just dragged on and on and on. The bus trip was by no means over. It still was hours to get down to Athens, and the traffic got worse. Anyway, eventually they dropped us in, I think it's called Syntaga Square or something. There was like a big square in Athens. And so we got our backpacks, me and this guy. We decided to hang out together for a while, try and get a place together. Athens was weird sort of architecture, like 1920s architecture. Not European, not English, I should say, not English architecture. Style of their own. It had a real feel, real wide pavements. And it was hot, not much green, not much grass or green trees, and dusty, But anyway, so we weren't long walking away from this square. We had no idea where we were heading. And this girl came bouncing up to us, and she said, "Oh, you guys, where you from?" And I said, "Well, I'm Australian, and he was from England." So she said, "Are you looking to stay at a lodge or a backpackers or something?" I said, yeah. She goes, "I'm staying at a place. I can show you to it." And she gave us the prices and all that. So of course she was like a tout. She would have been getting a bit of money to bring back backpackers to this place.